of waterways. Sue, I'm glad to have you here today, and I guess I had better describe you as the person who, as far as information is concerned about water, whose cup truly runneth over. I know that you're from Oregon originally. You spent a lot of time in different parts of the world and spent a great deal of time in England. And here you are publishing a newspaper on the waters of this area. What brought you here, and what brought this transition into this?
Well, I reached a point after living overseas that I knew I wanted to come home before I totally lost my accent and everything. And there was a time that that came, and I came back in 1982. Waterways came about in a rather interesting manner in that my background in Asia had been as a journalist specializing in third world affairs, economics, and development, particularly in the Himalayas, where I covered water issues constantly. I covered development issues, and there was a constant friction between development and the environment there. And it was very intriguing watching a third world country making choices on how to protect their environment and yet build their economy, and how to feed their people. And there were always these trade-offs, and it was intriguing. It became very clear that without a healthy environment, you weren't going to have a healthy economy, and without a healthy economy, you would then end up with environmental devastation.
Water is a contriversial subject, isn't it?
Very much so. Very much so. It's the essence of life.
And your newspaper, is it a controversial newspaper?
Yeah, we are quite controversial.
But you do present pretty much both sides of the issue. You do talk to the people who are for conservation, and you certainly talk to the people who are the developers.
The important thing about us is that we are a non-advocacy publication. Waterways is commercial. Many people in the beginning said, make it a not-for-profit. And the minute you are, as a journalist, you're compromised. And so we had to be able to give everyone free and fair access.
Mm-hmm. And you certainly are covering now the leisure aspects of water. And, of course, since this program deals with what we do with our leisure time, that's a subject that we're greatly interested in. You are working, as you do each year, on an issue which covers what you can do to enjoy the waters in this wonderful area. Is that an enormous task? Is it something that takes a great deal of effort and research?
Absolutely. It was something that we came about first in our decision that the topics we deal with at times can be very grim, and we didn't want people to be depressed or despair, but we want them to understand the extraordinary beauty that is there. The amount that is happening in New York State is mind-boggling. We cover over 6,000 miles of waterfront. When you look at this state, that's the thing. The Secretary of State, Gail Schaefer, points out over and over again, this state has a lack of coastal consciousness. There are very few New Yorkers that know that we have 30,200 miles of coastal shoreline, and you start counting inland lakes and rivers, and you can get over 6,000 miles. About the fourth highest waterfront area, I think, in the nation.
That's a lot of recreating, isn't it?
Oh, when what's out there. But look at the variety. You got the Erie Canal, you got the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Great Lakes, the Hudson River, and then Long Island and New York Harbor. Whoa. I mean, talk about your cup running over. It's amazing.
Let's stay closer to home and talk about some of the things that people in our general region can use and do. What would you say is probably the best place to go to water-related thing to do in this area?
Have you got 2 hours or 3 hours or 6 hours?
I asked for the best.
It's hard to cut it down because there's so much. And I tend to be a, quote, valley girl. I'm Hudson Valley, but Long Island has incredible shoreline and beautiful beaches.
Now, we're not talking about
lighthouses.
People, we're not talking about people who have their own boats from the little rowboat up to the super yacht. We're talking about things to do every day of the week when the weather is good and sometimes when the weather is bad.
Oh, there's so much.
You talk about lighthouses. Are there an enormous amount of lighthouses that people could go to?
There's some exquisite lighthouses. Fire Island is a very special lighthouse and one that has needed public support and has actually had a remarkable amount of of just public involvement to keep it alive, and they've constantly been struggling for funds. But they've in the summer, Fire Island has a black tie dinner in which everybody wears a black tie suit and then their swimsuits on the bottom.
Really?
Oh yeah, Fire Island's remarkable. Montauk Point, this glorious lighthouse out at the far end of Long Island, overlooking the Atlantic and its crashing waves. It's a fabulous place.
And what about the famous little red lighthouse that's under the George Washington Bridge?
Under the George Washington Bridge, there was a children's book written about that one.
Is that accessible to the public?
I'd have to check on that one. I'm not sure that one is. I think it's too hard to access. But Fire Island and Montauk certainly are.
And certainly Tarrytown Lighthouse. I know that there are tours of the Tarrytown Lighthouse that are done regularly.
Well, then you bring up my favorite friend, Christopher Letts of Hudson River Foundation. And Christopher does wonderful tours that take you back into the history of the Hudson River. And you go in and they'll have hot cider or hot cocoa, and you can tour the entire lighthouse. And inside the lighthouse, each room has specific historic displays. And you go up at the top and you can look out over the whole Hudson River with the Tappan Zee Bridge and learn an enormous amount and have great fun. It's perfect for kids. It's a wonderful, and it doesn't cost. It's free and wonderful fun.
And it's easily accessible, I know that. And
Yes,
there
it
are
is.
tours that are done frequently.
Yeah.
And that's really a great place. Let's talk about Manhattan and the waters of Manhattan. After all, Manhattan is an island, so there certainly ought to be many places that we go to. I'm sure they're covered in your publication.
South Street Seaport's first and foremost. They have a tremendous lecture series. The best bookshop all right, everybody will argue the best bookshop in New York City, I think, is the South Street Seaport. They have a fabulous bookstore. Anything you're interested in water, they've got it, and it's beautiful. But they have lecture series. I think one of the best I went to one time was on wampum and the wampum trade, and you'd sit there and think, no, I'm not. How could I be interested in that? And it's extraordinary. The speakers they have who make the material accessible, easy to understand. South Street's fabulous. You can go on board the Peking. You can go on these wonderful vessels, and then they have the various little kind of replica steamboats that take you on tours, and they have jazz bands and music, and you want to party, that's the way.
One of the things in that area that I find very interesting is that you can actually take a tour of the Fulton Fish Market, but
I haven't yet. I want to so badly.
But let me tell you that they start at 5 o'clock in the morning, I believe.
I thought it was 3. It's barbaric.
Their work is done there early in the morning, but the tour starts in the museum, the South Street Seaport Museum, and you're really finished with your tour at 7:30 in the morning.
Wonderful.
It's quite exciting.
Well, they have great restaurants around there too, so you could sit down and have breakfast. The restaurants in the South Street area are just beautiful.
Yes,
absolutely beautiful.
That is great. And a lot of times when we talk about the waters, we ignore the fact that one of the outstanding attractions is the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island.
It's a lady, yeah.
And many people, for some reason, don't go there because they're afraid of the crowds or they hear that there are long waits. My own experience, and I've been there twice, is that you pick your time. You certainly, if you can, go there when it's not holiday time, when it's not the height of the summer, when children are in school. And really, the wait is not that long. And the same boat goes to the Statue of Liberty and to Ellis Island. Yeah. And it's very, very worthwhile. It's extremely worthwhile.
I think there's several other things. The Intrepid Museum is a wonderful museum. And the Battery Park Esplanade is beautiful. The other big event coming up this summer is Opsail 92. We're going to have tall ships from all over the world, and that is going to be a spectacular event. That's 4th of July. And the city is going to be glorious.
What I tell people when they're coming to New York for the first time is that the best thing for them to do is to take the boat trip around Manhattan, which leaves from 42nd Street.
Yeah.
And it really gives you the greatest overview that you can get. And I think that certainly is involved with the water. You brought a book along with you that I think has some wonderful illustrations. And why don't we look at those now and talk a little bit about some of the sites in there. Some of them we've already covered. The book is what?
It's An American Treasure, the Hudson River Valley. It's a combination of wonderful text and photography. Text by Jeffrey Simpson, who's a very well-known writer who worked with Sleepy Hollow Press, and Ted Spiegel. Ted has worked with the National Geographic and photographed all over New York State. They just don't come better. I mean, a classic photographer, and this certainly is one of his finest works. Between the two of them, they were a great team, and I had the good fortune of working with them on the launch of the book, which was just glorious. Because I mean, I think it was frustrating. You had so many wonderful, rich images. I wish I could show you all of them. I mean, they're absolutely glorious. But the book starts immediately with the Statue of Liberty
and that is
the end
a
of
wonderful,
the island.
misty picture of that. I must tell you of an experience that I had with the Statue of Liberty. I had the good fortune to be able to fly with George Meade, who is the helicopter pilot who does the traffic reports on WOR in New York.
Yeah.
And I had my camera with me, and as we got close to the Statue of Liberty, he said, poke your camera out the window, but I'm going to get real close, so don't shoot till you see the green in her eyes.
Oh, how beautiful.
And it was really a magnificent sight being that close and seeing the bridge that way.
I did a shoot last autumn with Port Authority, took me up to shoot the harbor, and it was enormous fun because to the shock and horror of my friends who were in the back with me, the pilot agreed to open the window and let me hang out up to my waist, which I had a great old time. And I was outside this helicopter shooting, and it's the most beautiful harbor. There were barges going across with railway cars on it. Just so much happening. Huge old dredging going on in the channel near the Arthur Kill. It was exciting. There's so much happening in that harbor that no matter when you go to the Statue of Liberty, you're going to see so much more. The Staten Island Ferry coming and going. There's so much life. Passenger ships coming in and out. In fact, that's where we've got a beautiful photo here of the passenger ships coming in and the tugboats the vessels with a lot of amateurs who love going out in their motor launches and having a grand time.
Yes, and people seem to think that there's not much passenger traffic going out of the harbor, but there are cruise ships which are going out all the time, and they go out, of course, down to the islands, but there are also cruises to nowhere, which you go out for 1 or 2 days, and you come back, and it is a wonderful sight to see the harbor from the cruise ship deck. Go under the Verrazano Bridge. It's really marvelous. It's really excellent.
To let you in on local Huddle Scuttle, we had a guest editorial in which somebody called for a return of steamboats to the Hudson. And there are now a number of people getting their heads together to talk about the possibility of rebuilding a steamboat to have tours going to Albany and back, luxury and just an absolutely beautiful experience to go back to what the Hudson was in the 1800s. So I hope that happens. I'm excited about that possibility.
And I love the sight of sailboats and little sails and colorful sails, and I think the next picture that you have certainly shows that.
Well, there's sunfish, and there are a lot of small regattas taking place where people are going back with small boats. Kayakers, canoers are back on New York Harbor. Out of, I think it's Pier 14, the River Project people have one day that they have a celebration that people come in, bring plywood, bring their tools, and they build plywood boats. And they may look like a dragon, they may look like bathtubs, and then they sail across the river back in these very questionable craft. And they have a glorious time doing it. They bring a lot of school kids down, kids that normally wouldn't have access to the river.
Yeah, well, I remember one day when I was down at Battery Park City, and there was a man who had built a giant paper boat. And it looked like a paper boat, but it was actually a boat that he sailed in. And it's just remarkable about what people can do with some imagination.
Well, the old Irish coracles are very close to you. They're like a flimsy little leaf, an autumn leaf, and yet they'll go out and use them, take them out against the Atlantic waves. So man's courage in going out on the waterways is something that goes back generations.
Something that I don't think I would like to do is go across the ocean on a raft.
No. Now, I have a 19-foot rowing shell, and I go out on the Hudson at midnight, and I have a glorious time. I love it. And people say, doesn't it worry you? No, it doesn't worry me. Manhattan worries me occasionally, but it doesn't worry me.
Let's see some more of the pictures.
Oh, there's some great ones.
It's a great book.
Oh.
There's some wonderful sights in there.
Here we go. They have a jazz combo on the Staten Island Ferry.
You mentioned the Staten Island Ferry. That's one of the real great bargains, even though they have raised it from a nickel that it used to be. But just to take the boat across to Staten Island and then come back and see the skyline as we can see in this view, it's really a rare treat. There's another view that people don't know too much about, and that is going across to New Jersey to Liberty Park, Liberty State Park.
Oh, Liberty State Park's wonderful.
And you do get a great view of Lower Manhattan from there, which you really don't see from anywhere else. And another thing you get from there is a view of the back of the Statue of Liberty. We always think of seeing the front side, and she's always facing New York.
Well, the Liberty State Park has interesting activities, and there's also the railway station that was a major connection
Lackawanna
to
Railroad.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes, when the immigrants came in, most of them who were going to the west did not come back to New York, but they were taken to that railroad and then off to Chicago and Detroit and wherever they went.
We haven't mentioned Ellis Island, which since its renovation is an absolute must. You have to see Ellis Island.
Yes,
it is gorgeous.
Yes, we did mention the fact that the same boat does go to Liberty Island and to Ellis Island, and it is really great. It's a wonderful place. I say I've been there several times.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there we have one of my favorite spots, and that's the George Washington Bridge, which little lighthouse that we talked about, tucked away down in the corner there. And not to be confused with the old Washington Bridge, which connects the Bronx with Manhattan, and was just, I think, 100 years old just a year or two ago. But the George Washington Bridge is one of the great bridges, and I love it on holidays when they take this enormous flag and hang it on the Jersey Tower. It's really quite a sight to see.
Well, there's another one. As you talk about that area, I think it's near the old Washington Bridge is the Croton Aqueduct. Is that near it? The Croton Aqueduct.
Not the Croton Aqueduct. It's called High Bridge. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm thinking of a different area, because the Croton Aqueduct, I guess, crosses the Harlem River or the East River come down.
That is High Bridge, and that is an aqueduct bridge. And the reason that it's called High Bridge is because when they're first building it, they said, shall we build a low bridge or shall we build a high bridge? And they said there's no reason to build a high bridge because shipping is never going to come up this far, and there's no reason for this waterway to be open. But the people who voted, who were for the High Bridge, won out, and of course they were proven to be right. It is magnificent with a series of arches.
Well, I think that's an exciting area to explore, because one of the things that many people who enjoy engineering like is to look at and learn about the reservoir system for New York City's water, because you can go up and see the Croton Dam.
Right.
There are tours in some of the Hudson riverfront towns like Austining, where they'll take you down into the engineering sections along the aqueduct there, and they do tours about the history of it. You'd have to ring like the Austining Historical Society or the Croton Historical Society to find out the dates of those. But anything, books and background on that engineering of the reservoir system is phenomenal. And to just go up on a Sunday and drive around the reservoir, you can be an hour from New York City and think that you're up in the Catskills. It is just, near the Croton Dam, it's one of the most beautiful areas. And the autumn, you drive around the reservoir or go hiking or biking up. It's a wonderful place for bicycling. And you'll see swans out there, and the autumn colors reflected in the water. It just doesn't get better.
I like the magnificent overflow at the Croton Dam.
Yes,
where the Kensico Dam is a marvelous wall seen from below. The Croton Dam, you don't see water at Kensico when you're down below, right. But at Kensico you see that water gushing forth over the edges, and that is quite a sight.
Well, Croton has this delightful little arched wrought iron bridge, and you can stand on the bridge and watch it too. The other thing, I'm going to brag because I'm from Croton, and so I'm going to become terribly kind of home-oriented and jingoistic here, is Croton has just had its first Olympian in the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah. Gordy Shear was in luge, and the young man started his interest in luge at the Croton Dam, where there's a very steep bank, and he was the wild one who was always at the top of the highest bank, went on from there to Lake Placid, and then on to the Olympics from the Croton Dam. So childhood sledding can take you a long way.
Do we have any more photos to talk about?
This is a special one. Coming up in spring, every spring on the Hudson River is the shad run. And shad are very important because the striped bass fishery has been closed down because of PCBs. But shad are out of the Atlantic, so they're safe to eat. So there's a strong shad fishery. They're a member of the herring family, big. And according to Indian legend, God became angry with the Indians and turned the porcupine inside out and made the shad. And they have something like 72 bones, and yet the most delicious meat you've ever tasted. They're wonderful.
What is this shad bake festival that you were talking about?
Oh, that's great fun. The Hudson River Foundation and various community groups have regular bakes to celebrate the shad run. The shad run comes in about 3 parts. There's Forsythia Run, the Dogwood Run, and the Lilac Run. I may have them out of order. And communities like at the Tarrytown Lighthouse, up at George's Island, various points, Cold Spring, they will have a big festival with music, and people come down to the river. And educators like Tom Lake or Christopher Letts of Hudson River Foundation will set up a tasting session, and there'll be tables covered with pickled shad, with baked shad, and then they take planks and put them in front of coals, and they'll skin out the shad, and which boning a shad is a very, very special international trade. Many people don't know how to do it.
Sounds fascinating.
It is.
And
It's
it
really
seems to
wonderful.
me that we ought to be able to provide our viewers with some information about these schedules.
Yes.
And I'd like to be able to send them some material. Could you do that?
I'd be happy to. We can give you copies of the Hudson River Foundation's poster on shad bakes with recipes, and also a list of the spring shad bakes that are coming up for this year.
And they could do that by calling the Waterways?
Absolutely.
At what number?
914-271-6041.
And you'll send them the schedule,
We'd be
or the
happy
schedule
to.
as you
Schedule, yes.
say it, and also a copy of the poster.
Yes.
I'd like to talk a bit now about Waterways, your publication. You're really dealing with a very controversial subject, and what I like about the issues, you're monthly now, as I understand
Yeah, we
it.
are, for better or worse.
What I really like about it is the fact that you're taking something which really could be called a hot subject, and you're presenting it with a great deal of humor. I read somewhere that you were quoted as saying the requirements for a journalist can be typified by a statement by that great journalist Clark Kent. And you also have a competition that you ran recently. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, the state has been one of the really serious issues that we've been dealing with. It's very frustrating and offers to... It's going to cost the state millions and millions of dollars, is a very tiny creature called the zebra mussel. They are an immigrant from Europe, came over in the freshwater ballast of vessels going into the Great Lakes. They are Darwin's perfect example of survival of the fittest. They're incredibly prolific. They're tiny creatures about that big. They build up to densities of 750,000 per square meter, and they can filter feed 1 liter of water a day, which means that they can destroy the basis of an ecosystem.
So how did you get humor into that?
Well,
that sounds very serious to me.
It is serious. It's grim, and yet we're all, the whole state is putting its energies into trying to slow down their progress, to understand the species and how we'll control it and what we'll do. And it reached after a year, we'd had all this grim coverage about the zebra mussel, and we finally thought, guys, there's just got to be some way to do something. And actually, Daniel Patrick Moynihan sparked the idea because he put a bill into the Senate about using the mussels for roadbed fill. And
what's your competition?
Well, we thought the competition was, let's find how many uses we can get. So we put a competition out. We're going to give away a copy of a wonderful new book called The Hudson River Highlands by Fran Dunwell. And we said, tell us what you'd name him. Give us a name, because we have our own little logo we've been running, which is a zebra mussel open with these little sneaky-looking eyes. So we've had our own logo, zebra mussel, for a year. So we wanted to name him. We've come up with all sorts of wonderful names, and then we wanted what to do with them. We've had suggestions from paying off the trade deficit with Japan with zebra mussel shells, to sending them to Iraq, to... some rather unfair ones about our senators. If we put them on the seats of Senate, they wouldn't sit down so often. Various things, to pasties for mermaids, disposable spoons, all sorts of wild and weird suggestions. It's been hilarious.
And again, do you feel that you are creating controversy, or
Never.
are you... What actually do you see as your purpose with Waterways?
I'm very concerned. I'm going to take a nationwide view. There's one of the things that I'm concerned about in coming back to America after 10 years is the lack of high-quality journalism. There are a few last bastions, but checkbook journalism seems to dominate. And when you deal with issues that are this important, the people of this state cannot make their decisions based on generic information. They need to know what's happening on their waterways to understand a very frustrating technical system. I mean, you need to know who's the Department of Environmental Conservation. If your water is polluted in your area, what can you do and how can you do it? Who are you dealing with? What's happening at a state level? We are trying to bring the facts to the people of New York State and let them decide what they want to do. You have advocacy on all sides, and all sides, quite frankly, whether environmentalists or developers, really there is a lot of money at stake both ways. And we're trying to provide an area where it's non-biased, and also to give New Yorkers a wider understanding of this extraordinary resource. It concerns me that New York State now seems on its knees at times. It's as if we don't have hope. And I think hope is more important than anything else. And to show the state that there's this extraordinary resource. There's so much for the state to be proud of. And while we do have problems, we can deal with them.
Your publication is not just called Waterways. Your publication is called Waterways. What?
New York's Waterfront News, and that's not New York City. That's the whole state. We belong to the whole state.
And do you feel as if you're adding to the problem, or do you feel as if you're bringing the sides together? Do you see any signs of the fact that they're talking to each other?
Oh yes, talking to each other. People write us letters and say, "Thank God you're there." A woman from upstate wrote a letter that moved me to tears. I get phone calls from people who just are overwhelmed that we're there. We had a subscriber who sent in a check for $500 the other day because he's so thrilled with our work, and we told him we've given him a subscription for the next 9 lives he chooses to have.
Are you seeing any progress?
Oh, God. I wish I could tell you that, but no. In many ways, it's hard. When I first started out, I started a news clip service. We expected clippings of about 50 a week. We're looking for progress against pollution problems, new development, and the pollution problems were much greater than anything I thought. There's much more happening. I do see things happening at a state level that encourage me. DEC is taking on new programs dealing with industry, community involvement and activism, community understanding of the importance of dealing with non-point pollution. There are Cub Scouts who are going out there with stencils, and they're putting them down to a storm drain, and they're stenciling signs saying, "This drain goes to the river or to the Long Island Sound. Don't dump." A lot of people take the oil from their car, and without realizing where the drain goes, they pour it in there. And it's enormous damage. Detergent does tremendous damage. Washing your car, the detergent from that, if you wash it down a storm drain, you're going to do terrible damage. So people don't know that, and there's a lot more public education going on, a lot more public commitment to recycling. So in that way, yes, I'm encouraged, but I now get clips of up to 150 a week. I expected 50. There's much more happening on the state's waterways.
How can people get involved?
Learn as much as you can, and realize with your children that your local waterway is the most wonderful school. You can teach anything in a waterway. Waterways. I'm now involved with a new organization where up on the Erie Canal there's an old tugboat that's being restored, and they're going to use it.
People are getting involved.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we are running out of time. Could we just kind of sum up by saying something to the public about the waters? Enjoy them, save them, preserve them.
It's the most precious resource this state has, and it's also something that will bring great joy to your life personally. You're talking about your personal health, your drinking water. It's an important issue. You cannot take it for granted.
Thanks for being with us today. I'm Norman Liss. We've been talking today with Sue Morrow Flanagan, the publisher of Waterways. Thanks for being here, and enjoy yourself.